So automated and human checks, bank reconciliation. What's the whole purpose of automating reconciliations?
Well, part of it is that's one of the most important financial controls for a community. We're going to ensure that every transaction is recorded and what actually has cleared the bank. This is going to help you identify any errors, duplicate payments, missing deposits, or any unusual activity that you can get a hold of now instead of year end when you're going back through.
By the way, I wanted to just give you a little insight to default codes. Is that we have the ability to put a code on a vendor, and every time that vendor's used, it just gets coded to that account. And it's great for things like if you don't do prepaid utility bills, electric, water, gas. We know what it's going to be, so we just always mark it to that.
We have somebody with a finance degree on the board. So is he okay to put together the budget and do the end of the year budgeting and reconciliation and filing of taxes?
Absolutely. Anybody can put the budget together with a little bit of assistance. That's a difficult thing to ask. As long as you have your financials, you have an idea of what invoices you've paid, you have some historical information, maybe for the last 3 years to help out, I would say that can be helpful.
I think the one place that someone who has a finance degree was going to be very helpful on a board is interpreting what those numbers mean. This is the part that I will warn you. Even if you're really good with finances and understand them, you still want to kind of create a wall between you as a board member and the actual money. And that's one of the great things about having a community financials because we only do financials. We only do accounting and bookkeeping work. We don't do anything else. What it does is it actually creates that really natural wall between you as a board member and the physical money. And that's a good thing because if it ever comes down to somebody, and people nowadays, they don't even need evidence to create, suspicion. One of my favorite episodes of Seinfeld was when Jerry's dad, who was the president of the board, went to the early bird special, went to the later dinner and didn't take the early bird special. So everyone thought he was embezzling in the HOA. So no evidence to just say it. But if you have a community financials, there's so many checks and balances that we do. It's unbelievable. And that puts you in a super, super safe zone. If anyone was ever to raise their hand and say, I think there's some funny business going on.
How do you manage coding so that vendor invoices match the budgeting details?
We do have the payables people actually read the invoices, and when they code, they have their budget on one screen. So they do a comparison of what it is to ensure that they're coding it correctly. Because they're not on site, occasionally, if it's an extra that they haven't seen, you may have somebody reach out to you and ask you what you would like to code it to so that we don't have to do a reclass at the end of the month. But the best thing for that is, once you have that invoice in the system and ready to approve it, write your AP clerk a little note in the notes box that says, please code this to the reserve or code this to, this is a extra additional landscaping that we want to pay from. It will help them out and it'll help at the end of the month when your financials are produced.
It's really important to understand that the people on the board are in control of this. And it's through that strong room product that they actually can make the change. We never suggest that you change bylaws. You should never use a piece of technology that makes you change your bylaws. I have a saying that says you should never let the tech's problems become your problems. If the bylaws say that it needs to go all the way to the back and get reapproved, then absolutely. That's how we'll do it.
So as a board member logging into the board portal, let's go at the top 3 key items to look at. Find if there's any red flags.
I would say the first thing to do would be to check your messages, see if you've got anything going on in the community in the messages. The second thing would be your architectural application, see if anybody has submitted, and your banking. Go into your banking every day and check out your balance, kind of see what's going on. You can actually populate statements, the last 3 months of statements, but they're also in your financial packet. So it would be architectural, messages, and banking. I would say would be the top 3 things to glance over.
How simple is the process to fix those errors if they ever occur?
I think they're very easy to fix. You would reach out to your senior client manager. You would let them know that you have a mistake. Maybe you approved a bill that you didn't want to approve. Maybe you need to stop payment because you went outside and looked and the fence was missing a whole portion and you just went in and approved a fencing bill. Your client manager is going to be a big support system to you when you have questions. If you see something on your financials that just doesn't look right, send them an email or call them and ask them. Let them work with their bookkeeper and the team to see exactly what it is that you're seeing that you have a problem with so that we can get a resolution.
I always tell people, remember, at our core, what we actually are is a service. And what a service means is that we have human beings sitting in service to other human beings. I think that's really important. It typically takes about 30 days to onboard. And the biggest part of the onboarding process it happens in the very beginning, which we call a collaboration. In the collaboration piece, we find out who are your residents. We get in touch with them to get historical items. And then we get your vendor list. And then, we start the process of creating the budget if it needs to be created, reviewing it if it needs to be reviewed. I mentioned there are technically 5 pieces of software. There's at our very core basic level, you get the accounting system and the residential portal and the communication piece and strong room. That's our base level package. Above and beyond that, it starts to grade up on what pieces of software you want to use after that. That's one piece that we bring. We do need an operating account. It is Columbia Bank. They have a national presence. They have an HOA division. Because of our relationship, there are no banking fees. Because of that no banking fee process, that's where we get the no ACH convenient fee for your resident. They're able to do electronic payments without a fee attached to it.
I always suggest that you open a reserve as well. If you have an emergency and needed to move funds immediately, it's much easier if you have an operating reserve, your Columbia Bank.
When I went into the SmartWebs product, there was a drop down, and that would allow so your master would be one association within the technology, and then each sub association would have its own portal, and all the information technically wouldn't mix, and which is really important because that makes it very clean and clear on what money's in the account, what expenses have been paid, and each gets its own financial report at the end of the month. So it's all separate, but then it's all in one place. The more doors that get put on the system, technically, the rate goes down. The more you bring to us, the more efficient it will be. We are 100% remote, but we do have client managers that are located across the country. So typically you'll have a manager that's in your area, typically your time zone. So, but still we operate kind of in that 9 to 5, regardless of where that 9 to 5 is.
To all of our attendees, we see you, we applaud your volunteerism, and we are here to help you and to make it an enjoyable volunteer experience in your community. And that's why this slide is here. And so who are we? What do we do? Well, fundamentally, these are our core values that we deliver a wow experience every single time. We strive to exceed expectations 100% of the time. When we say that your financial reports will be to you on time and accurate, we keep that promise. We listen, we solve problems, we educate. If you're a current client and you saw something here, so reach out to your client manager. Any prospects you're interested in learning more, visit our website at communityfinancials.com. The top right corner, there's a request for quote button. You can start there.
If any of these sound familiar, that is a good sign. It is worth having a conversation. Most boards that reach out to us tell me afterward that they wish they had done it sooner. The hardest part is usually just deciding to look into it. You can start at communityfinancials.com, our website. There's a scorecard where you can see how your current setup stacks up and a cost calculator that shows what your community's accounting is actually costing you right now. If you want to talk through what a transition would look like for your community specifically, we're glad to have that conversation.